Okay, so I took the roof off. I'm gonna go do a quick top inspection. It's the warmest day we'll probably get in the next few weeks. It's probably 3 degrees Celsius in the sun. Not much melting going on, but the sun's up. There's no wind, and it's a beautiful late winter day. The track's out there right in front. A few caribou just walked by a couple days ago. But yeah, let's go have a look. Okay, you can see how my insulation system works. Bit of moisture down there, so the goal is to do a quick in and out. There should be a little wire. For some reason it's on the wrong side. Christ. Oops. You need 2 tools. Okay. Okay. So, I can see lots of bees down there. So I'm just gonna gently put some fondant on top there. Nothing too crazy. Honey levels probably still pretty good, but this is gonna be a monster hive. They're so big. I'll show you the IR thermography that I took from underneath, and yeah, they span pretty much top to bottom still. So this is that contraption. You got your camera set up on a stick that I can stick inside the colony. And so yeah, this is the center front of that colony I just showed you. And you can see how the bees are right at the bottom. Just want to make sure I don't squish the queen if she's there. That. Oh, we'll use this just to cover it up after. You can see there's a little bit of bee poop on there. I guess they haven't had a really good cleansing flight yet. No funny smells coming out of the colony. Everything smells good. I'm just gonna give them another type of fondant. I think they're really anxious to get out of that box. I'm back. Just gonna give them bees. Still too early for patty. If we had a good like 10-degree day with some cleansing, I'd consider it, but still too early. A couple more pieces, and it's time to close them off. Hopefully they can find their way through the front door. Okay, away. Okay, time to close them up. And then we just put the styrofoam back. And these straddlers, I'll just put them at the front door. Oh, wait. And that's it. There's one done. This is one of the weak ones. It was a small cluster going into winter. Actually, there's moose poo on top there. You can see that in the back of the lid here has some vents. I left them open in the back, not really worrying about it, but I guess mice found it and they made a nest in the top cover here. So they didn't get into the colony itself, but it's interesting to have mice on top of a colony like that. Okay, so let's have a look. It might be dead actually, so it might be my first winter loss in a few years. Yeah, it looks dead. I probably won't even be able to open it up because it's frozen in. Yeah, it's dead. So I'm just gonna box it up. And it's insulation for its neighbor. Well, losses happen. Up. So I was just looking at this failed hive. So you can see those 4 vents up there. Those were in the back and they were wide open. I did have what's it, R20 on top, but basically I was probably losing too much heat for my setup. So those holes should have been plugged, and I think it would have been fine for the size of cluster. It's kind of sad because I just requeened that one, but I guess it is what it is. And if you've got these lysine things in the winter, plug them up, especially if you're in cold weather climate. So yeah, but lesson learned. I'll have to look and make a video when I actually inspect the cluster to see what it looks like, because it looks pretty frozen in there, so I wasn't able to take that little piece of plywood out, so I'll have to wait till warmer weather. But yeah, I guess it is what it is, and we learn. And you can see how it's not the bee's fault, it's my fault. I should have plugged those up. I should have known better. Cheers. Okay, so this is a double. This is the one that has nosema and that amoeba disease. So I'll just go check on the top on the cluster. I'll put some Hive Alive fondant on, and this is where I've been storing my sub hub to keep it from freezing. And it's collecting the data from the 30 so sensors that I have here. Okay. The one thing I just noticed is there's actually a bit less insulation on this box than the other ones. Okay, let's see. Not the biggest cluster in the world. Oh, that's not too bad. Still quite a few bees. But what I'll do is, yeah, still quite a few bees down there. I'll move it over. Old back. Okay, that. And yeah, there's not much I can do here. I'll just let them be. Scrape these down. Like I said before, these colonies usually make it through, but yeah, there's something that triggers high mortality, so hopefully they can tough another let's close it up. And again, easy setup. This one only has R25 on it, so that's not good. So I need more insulation on top of this fella. So put this there, close that up, and there we go. I'll actually use this extra insulation to lay it on top. Live, but has a smaller cluster. Okay. Let's see if I can get this off. Nope. Okay, I'll move you closer. Oh, good. Decent sized cluster. They're through their fondant. So yeah, I'll give them a bit of both types. Put the bees down. And let's do that. A little bit of fondant there. Okay, let's do that. Throw that back on. Get these off. Overall, the bees look really healthy. It's good. So, a bit of pooing. BP pooed on my phone. Okay, put the styrofoam back. A bit. Perfect. Close up the cavity. There we go. Perfect. Let's have a look at the last one. So, let's have a look at the last one. A bit of moisture, but nothing too critical. Let's have a look. Okay, so not much for bees on top on this one, but I know the bees are in the bottom because I've filmed them and I've observed them. So, and they're all over the frames. So what I'm gonna do, okay, you can see I like leaving the plastic there because it creates a barrier. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift it up and go put the fondant below that plastic. Okay, just gonna form it. Oops, put that like that. And put another piece here. And then just put this plastic thing on top. Oh, watch out the fee. Let's see, she's trying to sting me. She's not very happy. I'll let her down. Good. They'll be able to find their way through. So I'll just close that up. And that's it. Quick inspections. 4 out of 5, which is fine. And we'll go from there. Okay, so I'll just describe this video. So the previous section was the front of the slatted rack, and this is a center frame. So you can see as we go, some of the bees are fairly hot, 30 degrees Celsius, and you can see the bees are getting further away. So that's the curvature of the cluster, and then over here you can actually see it stretching out in the distance. And remember, this is a double, so all the way up, and then they leave an open cavity. So you can see that pink you see in the distance, so that's the radiation coming off the cluster, getting absorbed in the different frames. And so what I'll do is I'll shift and count seams. So here's another seam, 2, 3 seams, and you can see how it's further up. 5 or 4 seams. Sort of 5 seams. I think this is the outer edge of the box, which is about right. There's 10 seams, I think. So 10, 11 seams. So basically that's the edge there. You can still see some yellow. And then I'm just moving back towards the center. And if you look well, you can actually see the curvature of the cluster. And I'm heading the other way now. And you can see the bottom of the frame doesn't line up with the slatted rack, so hence the reason why you don't see the bees. Which is actually kind of good, because it cuts free air circulation. And then we're heading towards the edge. But you can see there's still some heat there, 8 degrees. Those dots, the red one is the hot, the blue is the low, and the black dot is the median, or the average. And so yeah, I'll leave it at that. So just to finish off the video, I'll give you some tips there for those folks who have the FLIR ONE cameras, because there is software that comes with it, and there's some features you can use. Most people don't know about it, but every picture you take actually comes with temperature data attached to it. But you need to upload that picture to your computer via the FLIR ONE app. If you do it via the photos on your iPhone and stuff, it'll just be the photo and no temperature data. So this is actually from last year, and I guess this year what I did is I added a cable here to put my battery bank, because my batteries on this FLIR ONE dies really quick in the cold. So you can see how the thickness of the camera is about a ½ inch. So if your entrance is less or more than a ½ inch, you'll be able to slide it in. And so yeah, basically you can see how I'm actually taking a picture upwards of the cluster. And then what I do is I go in the center, and then I go and I shift and I move sideways. And then, because I want to count the seams. Sometimes if you've got a slatted rack, you'll notice that things don't always align. And if you don't use a slatted rack, there might be quite a bit of tightness below there, because the bees like building burr comb below the frames. So your camera might come into contact with that. So the reason I put the elastics here with these tabs, and now I use 4 or 2 on each side, is so my camera doesn't pop off inside the colony and then basically spend the rest of the winter in the colony. So by having 4 elastics, and just make sure the camera doesn't come off while I'm doing this. So some of the features on the FLIR ONE, if I'd recommend the Flir Tools. They're not supporting it anymore, but it has more free analytical features. This is an actual picture. These 2 pictures are exactly the same. One's a visual, a normal picture, and this is the actual IR picture. you can see that in the tools you can draw boxes, you can draw points, you can draw lines, and what it does, it gives you data around that. So for example, if I wanted to get the average temperature of this section, I could draw a box around it, and then it would give me the max, the min, and then the average temperatures. Technically, I could download all that data into Excel and then use Excel to do more analysis, but you can see how you can use boxes. So I was just getting an idea of what's the temperature at the bottom of the frames. Over here, bottom of the slatted rack is, I think, box 2. So it just gives you some different ideas. You can put different points. I drew a line along a B here, and then I charted it here. So I dumped the data to Excel, and then you can see how you've got the abdomen, the thorax, and the head. And the thorax is where their wing muscles are stored, hence the reason that's the high here. So you can actually get a temperature profile on the bee itself. So yeah, there's a few slider bars in the tool, so where you set, basically, if I set the slider bar to 25°C and above, you can see how only the temperatures above 25°C show up. And it chops the spectrum up into sections, so the full spectrum. And as you slide the bar back and forth, you can see that all this section here is above surface, or not surface area, but this section here is all above 10°C, 15°C, 20°C, 25°C. So it's just another way of visualizing things. And then last but not least, when you do these things, you just need to be careful not to disturb the colony too much, because it will cause them to heat up. So just something to be careful. And the reason I'm using it is to confirm what the surface temperature of the cluster is. And it typically seems to be around 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, with the odd heater bee popping out here and there, that the thorax there is at maybe 25 to 30°C temperature. So hopefully that was good. If you want a how-to on that, on how to use the Flir tool, just let me know via the comments, and I'll have a look to see what I can do.